Well, hello. Howdy, folks. Darren Ray Fonso here, and we're talking about workers' compensation or labor and industries as we call it here in the state of Washington. Also today, we're going to be talking about injured workers in the state of Washington and how some of us are failing to unite around our needed minimum federal oversight for the injured workers of America. And it's really disgusting at this point that I've had another injured worker here in the state of Washington befriend me for the last couple of years and act like she cared about our injured workers and our needed minimum federal oversight. And I helped allowed her into my our workers comp Facebook page to be a part of it, to be an admin, along with another injured worker, Dina Padilla, who I allowed also to be an admin, to help run the group, and maybe when I was in jail, to keep it alive and keep it moving. So, anyways, it was always with the belief that she was there to fight for some state fixes, and that was great, 2 years ago. But after we got we had that letter from Senator Sanders, and then we got this other letter from the United States Congressional Research Service, which is a nonpartisan think tank out of Washington, D.C., that is telling us we need this minimum federal oversight. So it's frustrating to me that when we got that letter and from the United States Congressional Research Service, and I started sharing it, why didn't this other injured worker who was helping me with my Facebook page say, hey, yeah, that's great, Darren. We need that federal oversight. That's good news, because that's what Senator Sanders was telling us we needed 5 years ago. Yet here it is 5 years later, and the U.S. Congressional Nonpartisan Research is telling us we need it. So neither side can make an excuse for not fighting for our injured workers. And yes, it's great when we get state fixes. Those are awesome. But yet when those state fixes are distraction from the needed federal oversight for all of America's injured workers, then I have to call foul. This is great that we're getting some justice here in the state of Washington. Possibility. It all needs to go through yet, and the ink's not dry on all of it. And there's also some people trying to make amends to this law that's supposed to give the private insurers some actually more power than they have now. So we need to talk about that instead of just the one part of it that says, woohoo, we're helping injured workers. There's another part of this bill that is maybe have an amendment to it that helps the self-insurers and gives them more power. So it's like we're getting some crumbs to the injured workers while not telling the truth how this might help some private insurers at the same time here. And that needs to be talked about. And also, when I am calling people out on the needed minimum federal oversight and saying, that, yeah, hooray, Washington State, we may get some justice here for some injured workers down the road in the future with being able to get some IMEs videotaped or audio taped somehow. And I'm hoping it goes all the way and says we can audio and videotape all our physicians who are attending us in our private care or workers' comp care. But we got to read the fine print on that too. So yes, we say kudos a little bit, but we don't pat the state lawmakers too much on the butt when they're failing to stand up and tell us the truth about the needed minimum federal oversight our U.S. Congress is also telling us we need. And we don't go around telling other injured workers seeking that needed minimum federal oversight that, oh, well, these little state fixes are a stepping stone to you getting your federal oversight someday. No, what this is a bunch of people using a state fix to distract from the needed federal oversight that the rest of America's injured workers need. These are state lawmakers and small businessmen controlling the narrative. And so it's frustrating for me as an injured worker when I have been fighting for this federal oversight since at least before 2015, when Senator Sanders and Senator Patty Murray told us we need this minimum federal oversight for all of America's injured workers. 5 years later, I've got the United States Congress Research Service also telling us we need this minimum federal oversight. So it's frustrating for me when I feel like my Facebook page, Our Broken Workers Comp page, was infiltrated by basically Bernie crap people and this bad faith insurance group lady who took off from my group because she was so offended and disgusted by me and my ways. Well, unfortunately, it's taking me being that way for our voices to be heard. And if you don't think this state fix that you're just getting here from these lawmakers in the state of Washington isn't due to some of my calling out to our lawmakers to step up to the plate and help us, then I'm sorry, you are sadly mistaken. Because if there's one injured worker in the state of Washington that the politicians know about It's Darren Fonso. And so when I have other injured workers stepping up to the plate here and saying, well, state fixes are good, don't worry, we should be proud of it. And yes, we should be proud of it a little bit, but we should not let it distract from calling these same lawmakers out on a needed federal oversight for the rest of America's injured workers. And telling us it can't be done, you're telling us the same thing the Bernie crap business community has been telling me for 5 years since Sanders gave me the letter, and for me to go away with that letter for federal oversight because it can't be done. We could at least be educating people for the time when it can be done. And if we can educate people about Medicare for all, and we can educate people about a guaranteed income, and we can educate people about all our other rainbows we want to chase after, but yet we can't chase after the same rainbows that Senator Sanders told us we needed in a letter 5 years ago that now he's been silent about for 5 years. But like I say, we've had some other smart folks that are nonpartisan. The U.S. Congressional Federal Research Service. That's our tax dollars that paid for these men and women from the affluent community, supposed to be the think tanks, and nonpartisan. As I said, this was Congress, from the United States Congress members from both sides, from both parties here, getting together to look at the state work comp systems and tell us, and ended up telling us, they looked at it and said, yes, this is what basically needs to be done. So everybody telling us it's not doable is people that are siding with the business community and the LA small businessmen like Tyler Vega. I'm all for Bernie Sanders. I'd love to see him win, but if you guys can't get honest about the needed minimum federal oversight that you're working to cost shifts off to Medicare for all, then I don't know what to say anymore. But it is frustrating me that I had this other injured worker helping me run my I Broken Workers Comp Facebook page. Chooses to, I told her that the other day that I was kicked off my main Facebook page, so I had no control to help her kick somebody out of the group. She wanted to be kicked out of the group or something, and I couldn't do that. I said I have no power right now because I'm on a Facebook restriction on that page. I'm using my wife's page to communicate with. And so anyways, this lady on Facebook, who's supposed to be another injured worker helping me, is saying that she's pulling down all of my Facebook Broken Workers Comp. So there's like 300 other people that signed up for our Broken Workers Comp page that this admin upon herself has taken it upon herself to try and silence my voice and everything that group has posted for the last 5 years. I understand now why she was only at my group, because she was probably with the lady that from the Bad Faith Work Comp in my state of Washington. I can't remember what she used to call it, Bad Faith Insurers or something. And I can't remember her name, and I'm not using either one of their names. I'm just saying injured worker right now, because this is pretty disgusting that, they cuss me out and are upset with me because I call them names. Well, I'm calling them names because they're failing to stand up and represent us and fight for a federal oversight and sitting around telling us, no, it can't be done. We got to do state fixes. You're just like the Bernie crowd all sitting around telling me we can't get those. No, we can't. Yeah, Senator Sanders said that 5 years ago, but we can't fight for that. It's impossible. And that is bullshit. When the Congressional Research Service has told us we need this to be done, and it was nonpartisan, yet none of you will stand up and fight for us, Republican or Democrat or Bernie-crat even. And that's the frustrating part here. I feel like my Facebook page was infiltrated by a bunch of Bernie crap folks who befriended me, who were only there to try and fight for state fixes. And that's the same thing with the Latino, what is the other one group that I got, the friends that act like they want to fight for America's injured workers, yet they only want state fixes. And that's my friend in his Reform L&I group. Hector don't want to get honest either. Now, I do mention his name because I've talked to him on the telephone, and he's told me, Darren, I represent bizmen as well as injured workers. So I kind of have another motive here. And then he, too, is telling me to vote for some Republican for governor because he says that's going to fix everything. Well, whatever. That's not going to get me my federal oversight on the table or any of the other injured workers in America that need help. And, yeah. So why is it that we have these groups in Washington state that claim to be for injured workers, but when we say stand up and fight for our federal oversight, they all say, no, Darren, we can't be done. We need a state fix. It seems like I had a bunch of people who had ill intent infiltrate my Facebook page, just hoping for the opportunity to one day to pull the plug on my group so that everybody else could not hear my rants and my rages and my facts and truths. And my fight for the federal oversight for all of America's injured workers, not just Washington State's injured workers. All along, I've been fighting this crowd that is selfish and only wants to think for themselves with Medicare for all and with a one-state fix, because they don't want the truth and they don't want to hold our lawmakers accountable for the minimum federal oversight that they know we need, and which makes me wonder why. And I'm starting to know why now. And like I told this woman that the other day when I told her I couldn't kick out the other guy, I kind of knew that she might pull this little trigger with me when she got the opportunity. And that's what she did. She waited for a chance for me to yell at her at some point. She knew I would when she toyed with me. And then pull the plug on my group when I was out of it. And that is pretty disgusting as far as I'm concerned. Well, I could be, I'm an injured worker who has psychological issues. And I've proven that, and I have the facts to prove that. And so some of my cussing, she even knows. So it's really frustrating for me at this point for her to use saying what I said about her, which was a filthy word, but to use as an excuse to silence me and my whole group in this fight that I have been doing and been doing on Facebook for more than 5 years now, meant that she was only there to try to wait to be there at a point to pull the plug on my little group. It's pretty disgusting at this point that I have Bernie-crats in the state of Washington all conspiring and working to try and silence our injured workers who need minimum federal oversight. We have the Latino Civic Alliance that doesn't want to get honest about the injured workers needing minimum federal oversight. Then we have Inform LNI, who wants us to vote for Republicans, just like Tyler Vega, who is runs our Bernie-crats in the state of Washington, wants me to vote for Scott Stefani, a former work comp attorney, for governor. Yet none of them want to get honest about the need for the minimum the federal oversight for our injured workers. This is egregious in this country, in the state of America, in America today, when everybody is conspiring to not tell the truth to America's injured workers, to not do what we did in 2009. Senator Baca out of California, United States Senator, whatever, or might have been a representative, I don't know what Baca was at the time, but in 2009, he put forth a bill asking for minimum federal oversight for America's injured workers, and that bill failed. And I don't remember who was in control. One was going in and one was coming out at the same time, and they both basically failed us at that point, to put the minimum federal oversight on the table for America's injured workers. And here it is, 2020. And we still can't, people are telling us it can't be done. If it can't be done, why did the United States Congress Research Service go through and spend all their time and money, and not their time and money, our taxpayers' time and money, for a nonpartisan think tank to get together here in 2019? They all got together and investigated state work comp systems and everything everybody was saying, and they agreed we need this minimum federal oversight that our state lawmakers don't want to get honest and tell us about. So I'm sorry when other injured workers say I got to be proud of my state lawmakers because they stepped up and did something good for us, which is great, but they're still not getting honest about the need of minimum federal oversight so that what was done great for us can be done for all the others. This is egregious when you keep telling us, no, it can't be done. If it can't be done, why did the United States Congress, nonpartisan think tank, get together and spend all that money and time and those big old smart people all bang their heads together from both sides to churn out this document that tells us we need minimum federal oversight if we don't need it, and it cannot be done. It can't be done because we have a fake revolution movement in which they're sending Bernie-crats here in the state of Washington to infiltrate the work comp injured workers sites with people who have no intent and are working only towards state fixes while they distract everybody else and do not call out the lawmakers on a minimum federal oversight that all of America's injured workers needs. This is a complete failure of the left to stand up and represent us. And then there's even, like I say, the left is sending injured workers to infiltrate the work comp online world with people like this bad faith insurer and LNI, Form LNI, who only wants a state fix. I also represent Bizman. That's ridiculous. If you represent Bizman, then you aren't representing an injured worker. And if you're fighting for state fixes while not fighting for the injured workers' minimum federal oversight, then you are failing us all as human beings at this point in time. This is egregious. When our Bernie-crats and our revolution and Tyler Vega and his whole gang of people try to infiltrate and silence the injured workers, and so does Ortiz Self. Tried to silence the LNI people when they're fighting for their little state fix. We don't need injured workers to be silencing other injured workers. We need to amplify our voices. Now, I was allowing her state voice to be heard, but she didn't want to amplify my federal voice when it needed to be talked about and put on the table, especially after 2019 when we got the report that said we needed that federal oversight. This person who left my Facebook group and then burned it down as she went out the fucking door has chosen to anyways. She does not want federal oversight. She wants to be this intellectual, snobbery, political astute, as Jason called for Congress, is political and astute. And we got other bigger issues than your federal oversight. How is this injured worker any different than Jason Call or Rick Larson, for all of them, who don't want to put our minimum federal oversight on the table and keep telling us, no, it can't be done. We can't get honest about it. That's what uphill progressive media. I've caught them on freaking camera. I wish I knew how to do it. I would share it with you right now, but I've caught them on camera telling us G. Jaron, Tyler Vega, and Gigi Ferguson, and David Strider, and Scott Stefani, all of our Bernie crats get on us, and especially Scott Stefani, our Republican Bernie crat. He couldn't get on us about that. We're going to run him for governor. This is ridiculous. We are being failed here in America. The injured workers are being failed, and then the people who call for the federal oversight that the United States Congress told us we need are all being called crazy. Just like you've called Dina Padilla crazy for 30 fucking years now, and other hard advocates like herself, who is, me and her are politically totally opposites, but we agree what we need for injured workers is a minimum federal oversight. And that's the problem here. You don't just label injured workers fat and lazy and sluts and nuts. That happens to all of us. When you injured workers tell us, other injured workers who are seeking the federal oversight, that it can't be done and that we're sluts and nuts, because that's what you're doing to us when you poo-poo our ideal for federal oversight. You're basically shitting on us just like our doctors and everybody else has. And that is egregious at this point. Yes, applaud your little state fix. But that whole time that you were all maybe coddling and working behind closed doors, apparently, with some state lawmakers, instead of calling those state lawmakers out to call out our federal lawmakers and get honest with us about what all of America's injured workers need, instead of your little selfish selves right here in Washington State. Or the other selfish thing you want to do is get Medicare for all while not fighting for the minimum federal oversight for injured workers, leaving us behind, which is selfish too. Because what you want is for the people who still have jobs and are lucky enough to have them, get lower workers' comp, lower insurance rates, or none at all. And so basically, if you want some people who have some jobs that are paying through the nose for their insurance to get some relief, but you don't want injured workers to get some relief with our needed federal oversight, that is kind of selfish of the Medicare for All advocates who will fight for Senator Sanders' Medicare for All, but not for his minimum federal oversight for America's injured workers. You wonder why we get enraged? It's because of this. It isn't just... This is how we are failing America's injured workers, because everybody buys into this little political myth. Well, gee, if we get honest about the federal oversight, well, we won't get elected. We won't get in. Well, that is a lie from the liberal left and the small biz liberal left, like Tyler Vegas of the world, that is a lie and a myth. Because if that was true, then this socialist, a guy ran as a socialist in the state of Virginia or West Virginia, I can't remember which one it was, but I think it was the Virginia Assemblyman. He ran on a literal shock because he was a lineman for the electric company. He ran on workers' comp. Maybe it was just at the reforming the state level and on the state level, whatever. He ran being honest about a war on injured workers and got elected. So when everybody tells you that you can't get honest about the minimum federal oversight for America's injured workers, that is nothing but the bizmen and the political intellectual snobs on the liberal left, because we can't get honest about that. We can't tell the truth about that. Jason Call for Congress would rather call me crazy than stand up and fight for the injured workers minimum federal oversight, yet he is running for U.S. Congress against Senator Rick Larsen. And Jason Call had the nerve to come out and write me and tell me, well, nobody listens to you, nobody's going to do nothing because you yell and scream, whatever. I'm an injured worker who's asking for help, who's been screaming for help, and he says, well, you wanted me to drop everything I was working on. I was working on I-1600 single state payer fix, and I was working on Medicare for all, and those Medicare for all and I-1600 state fix, not your injured workers. So, and Jason Cole told me, gee, Darren, you wanted me to drop all of that and put your issue on the table. And that is a lie, Jason Cole for Congress. I wanted you and Tyler Vega and the whole Bernie-crat echelon and even freaking Senator Sanders to speak up and fight for the minimum federal oversight he told us we needed 5 years ago. I didn't ask you to drop any of your issues. I asked you to pick our issue up and fight for that as hard and at the same time as you fought for all these other solutions and social ills and solutions that we have. So this is egregious. The reason we are failing America's injured workers in America today is because the liberal left, like Randy Rhodes and other union people who won't stand up and speak up and tell us the truth as a war is being waged upon us, that we need some minimum federal oversight in this country. Because America's injured workers are being purged to the streets. Aging injured workers are being purged to the streets to die. As other people say, well, we got a process. We got a state fix we're working on for you. Well, that's great. Well, how's that help that guy 2 states over? We were been robbed. Labor has been robbed of the grand bargain now for the last 50 years through state fixes that have taken it away from us. I don't want to see injured workers have to wait another 50 years as you slowly get our stuff back that was taken away already that we should have had. We shouldn't have to wait state by state for you guys to fix things little bit by little with some PTSD for officers here, but not PTSD for first responders over there. No, we need some equality when it comes to injured workers in this country. Not everybody bowing down to the state chambers of commerce and Alec Bisman instead of getting honest about the need of minimum federal oversight. It's egregious. It's just completely egregious. Every injured worker that has a brain and has fought this for any of them that have been advocates for injured workers for any length of time, some of them decades, like I say, some of them 30 years, are telling us and have told us, and we were told we needed this in 1972 when President Nixon had the other work comp commission, National Work Comp Commission. That's all we're asking for. There's another National Work Comp Commission like we had in 1972. We tried to get it in 2009 and everybody booed us down then. Now we're back in 2020. We're trying to get it done again, but nobody wants to put it on the table. This is the liberal left in bed with the freaking Alec Biz right to erode away the grand bargain for the American injured workers state by state. It's egregious. And now, because the NPR report came out in 2015, the demolition of workers' comp, and they told us the truth about all this going on in 2015, over the last 5 years, you start seeing some state legislators start to let loose with PTSD for first responders and cancer presumptions for firefighters. And like I say, they're helping the frontline injured workers because they know they need to, because if they don't, those are the ones that are keeping the other injured workers at bay. And not only are they only doing that, they've turned around and they're starting to lower state work comp rates because the bizmen were starting to get pissed off too, because for the last freaking 10 years, these insurance companies have been stepping out the back door with all the fucking door and putting injured workers' noses in the fucking dirt while everybody's getting rich and stepping out the back door. And that's what's going on, and it's still going on. And if we don't step up with some emergent minimum federal standards in this country for America's injured workers, instead of messing around with a state fix here and a state fix there, and maybe a state fix there, and maybe not a state fix over there. No, we need workers treated equally in America today, just like we needed it when MLK fought for garbage truck drivers before he was assassinated. Garbage truck drivers killed on the fucking job. And today, we have a garbage truck driver on the job killed daily. in this country. Recycling workers, one a day, die on the fucking job. Is any of these people talking about that? No. And I would like to know what minimum federal oversight is going to do for a man who's making $35,000 for an amputated arm in Alabama, and the guy in Georgia gets $750,000 for the arm. How is just getting medical care going to resolve the compensation between those two states? Injured workers are still going to be reduced to the chop shop mentality, because Section 801 of the Medicare for All bill leaves our injured workers behind. And that is why Senator Sanders and now smart folks from the United States Congressional Research Service are telling us we need this minimum federal oversight. I'm going to leave it there. It's been almost 30 minutes, and I haven't done a Sunday morning sermon in a long time. It's not Sunday, but every day's Sunday for me after you've lived through work comp hell. It's egregious that I would have another injured worker try and silence my whole site and my whole fight that I've been doing for minimum federal oversight because she got huffy and got her panties in a wad because something I said to her, when she knows I've been calling people whores and bitches throughout this whole process, because that is what lawyers and other professionals are calling these doctors and other medical whores that sell our shit down the fucking drain. And I'm sorry if telling you the truth offends you. And it offends me when you want to be proud and only fight for these state fixes and fly your little flags for these state fixes and all of that. When you're louder for that, you're louder for your screams for Medicare for all, then the injured workers are crying for our fucking federal oversight. No wonder I'm enraged. No wonder every injured worker in America should be raged if they're one of the 33 states that there's federal government has told them their states are failing them, and none of our state lawmakers will step up and get honest about that. That is bullshit. Anyways, for this other injured worker who kicked me out of my shut down my Our Broken Workers Comp page, if it makes you feel better, I was almost ready to pull the plug on the thing myself anyways, because I'm getting tired of standing up and fighting for others that won't stand up and fight for them fucking selves. It's disgusting. We need minimum federal oversight. If you're not fighting for that minimum federal oversight, you're distracting us from it with state fixes or court cases or other fucking issues, instead of putting the goddamn issue and the minimum federal oversight on the table so that we can educate this nation, so that when the time comes that we can pass it, they know that we need it. Not sit around and pat other people on the back and state lawmakers on the back when what is needed is some minimum federal oversight. Yes, kudos to the state lawmakers that stuck up and are trying to do something here in Washington. But if this injured worker who was trying to silence me thinks that it wasn't my voice that some of those congressmen didn't hear, I know Mike Sells was on that committee. Mike Sells was involved with my case personally, little Missy. And that's what I'm tired of, this intellectual snobbery from my Bernie-crat side. That is just, I understand Republicans being bizmen and wanting to, not help injured workers. That I can comprehend. What I don't comprehend is these Bernie-crats telling me, well, Jimmy, can't get honest about it. You can't call Sanders out on that. For 5 years, I've been told, you're trying to get Sanders to lose. No, I'm trying to get him to get fucking honest. Have a good day.